This raw, true story is for anyone who poured 3 years of every paycheck into a partner and her entire family, only to get stabbed in the back on your own wedding day, Daimoen. For 3 full years, I covered my fiancée Mia's rent, maxed out credit card bills, her parents' massive medical debts, bought her a brand new SUV outright, and funded this entire lavish wedding venue from my personal savings. I held onto every bank slip, text log, voice recording, and receipt, never raised my voice or made a fuss, just hoped we'd build an equal life together. On the wedding altar, she linked arms with my lifelong best friend Ethan instead of me, and both of them signaled for me to play along to avoid a scene in front of 200 guests. I didn't yell, throw a fit, or start a fight. I simply walked up on stage, laid out every single piece of public proof, took back all wedding cash gifts, and cut off every single financial stream I'd provided them. Every bankruptcy, social ostracism, and broken family fight they suffered afterward was purely self-made from their own greed and deception. I never planned any revenge, only reclaimed assets legally mine to own. Hashtag chapter 1 The Wedding Altar Betrayal. The ballroom stage lights burned bright, every guest's eyes locked forward. I stood in the designated groom's spot, wedding ring box clutched tight in my palm. 3 minutes earlier, I was supposed to exchange vows with Mia. Now I was just a spectator watching her walk down the aisle with Ethan, my best man since high school. The MC gripped his microphone with a stiff, rehearsed grin. We've hit a small last-minute hiccup. Our original groom had an unexpected emergency, and it can't make it up to the altar today. He shot a quick warning glance straight at me. Silent message clear. Don't cause a stir. Keep the event smooth for everyone. Murmurs and light laughter rippled across all banquet tables, guests joking about cold feet. I didn't crack a smile. My gaze stayed glued to Mia in a white designer gown I'd paid for in full. The man she leaned into wasn't me. It was Ethan. She caught my stare for half a second, a flicker of panic crossing her face before she smoothed her expression and gave me a tiny, subtle nod. The silent signal told me to comply and not ruin their big moment. 3 years of endless one-sided sacrifice flashed through my mind in an instant. I paid Mia's monthly downtown apartment rent every month, cleared $20,000 worth of her family's accumulated hospital debt, dropped a full cash down payment on her luxury SUV, and drained my last chunk of life savings to book this premium hotel wedding package. She promised to pay me back gradually once we tied the knot. I believed every soft lie she fed me. 2 months prior, she begged me to splurge on a grand banquet instead of a quiet courthouse elopement, claiming her relatives would lose face without a fancy reception. I'd handed over all my liquid savings without hesitation. Now she stood ready to exchange vows with my closest friend, fully expecting I'd shrink back quietly to save them public embarrassment. I folded the velvet ring box shut and slipped it inside my suit jacket pocket, smoothing my blazer flat with one palm. Slow, steady footsteps carried me up the aisle while every guest had twisted to watch my advance. The MC tried to step between me and the stage to block my path, but I easily sidestepped his outstretched arm without rushing or raising my tone. Everyone, let's clear up the so-called emergency, the host mentioned. I reached out and took the microphone straight from his grasp, turning to face 200 watching guests. The missing groom they're talking about is me. A loud wave of shocked chatter washed over the entire ballroom. But don't worry, the ceremony can still go on uninterrupted. I tilted my chin toward Mia and Ethan, a thin, cold smile tugging my lips. If they're allowed to swap grooms last minute, I guess the person collecting all wedding cash gifts can be swapped too, right? Complete dead silence fell over the venue for 3 heartbeats before the room exploded with stunned shouts and overlapping conversation. Mia's face bleached paper white instantly, her jaw tightening as she hissed through clenched teeth. "What are you doing out of nowhere?" My voice stayed level, no anger or volume spike, just playing along like you gestured for me to do. Confusion flickered across her features for a split second before I projected my voice, so every table could hear clearly. Every single cost for this venue, catering, floral arrangements, bridal gown, and photography came straight out of my personal bank accounts. I have every digital receipt saved on my phone, ready to cast onto the overhead screen if anyone needs to verify. Mia stepped forward, raising her tone to draw sympathetic gasps from the crowd. All that money was gifts you freely chose to give me. You can't take back presents you volunteered to hand over. I nodded once without shifting my neutral expression. I chose to provide financial support when we were engaged and planning a shared future. That agreement no longer stands. Now you're marrying another man. Her father, Mr. Bennett, shot up from the front row table, storming up the stage steps with a furious scowl carved into his face. This is blatant extortion. You're holding our whole family hostage in public. I turned to face him without shouting back. Your daughter's standing here to get married using every dollar I earned and saved. Asking for full repayment hardly counts as extortion. He froze mid-rant, unable to form a retort as scattered murmurs of agreement spread through the crowd. Mia's eyes welled with manufactured tears, slumping her frame in a performative display of heartbreak while addressing all guests directly. He's been financially controlling me for 3 years straight. Every time I hesitated to lock in a wedding date, he threatened to cut off all money for my parents' medical bills. Before anyone could fall for her staged sob story, I unlocked my smartphone and connected it to the banquet's overhead projection screen, pulling up a saved voice memo she'd sent to her girl best friend 1 week prior. Her unfiltered, unscripted voice blared out of every venue speaker system loud and clear. Don't stress about all the wedding expenses. Owen's such an easy sucker with tons of spare cash. We can drag this engagement on as long as we need, then switch over to Ethan once the big reception hits. He'll never dare make a public scene to embarrass me. The audio cut off with static buzz, and total silence swallowed the ballroom again. Mia's fake, tearful expression vanished entirely, raw panic spreading across her cheeks. You secretly recorded my private voice notes to my friend? I gestured to the chat log displayed on the screen beside the audio file, showing the message had auto-synced to our shared cloud drive when we still linked accounts together. No hidden surveillance required. Every guest scanned the projection while processing her pre-planned deception in real time. Ethan shot a furious side glare at Mia, whispering a sharp accusation only the three of us could hear. You swore every part of this scheme would go off without a hitch. Their carefully united fake front crumbled apart on stage for the whole room to witness as they traded bitter, quiet jabs. I stepped back and let them bicker without interrupting. Their internal conflict did far more damage to their public reputation than any line I could speak. After their tense private argument died down, Mr. Bennett climbed back onto the stage to negotiate a partial settlement, lowering his angry voice into a desperate hush. Name a partial number we can pay off today to end this embarrassment fast. I pulled up a full itemized financial breakdown on the projection screen, scrolling line by line for every expense accumulated over 3 years, the total bolded at the bottom, $317,600 USD principal sum, no partial settlements accepted on the spot. A collective shocked gasp rippled through every table upon seeing the six-figure total. Mia's voice cracked with genuine terror. No more fake crying performance to hide her fear. You tracked down every tiny purchase we ever made together? I originally logged every transaction, hoping we'd build a shared household budget post-marriage. That future no longer exists, so the full ledger serves complete repayment evidence. Ethan's shoulders sagged forward in defeat. He didn't possess anywhere near 6 figures in liquid assets to cover the entire wedding and personal debt load single-handedly. I don't have that much cash available right now, he admitted openly to every watching guest. If you can't cover every expense tied to this wedding, the ceremony cannot move forward. I replied simply, glancing toward the venue event manager lingering by the back exit waiting for a final decision. Mia's tone turned shrill with rage, accusing me of petty revenge sabotage. You're ruining my wedding day out of spite. I kept my tone calm and factual, no malice coloring my words. This isn't retaliation. It's financial reconciliation after 3 years of you draining my income while plotting to leave me for my best friend behind my back. I stepped off the stage platform and walked straight to the long wooden gift table stacked with dozens of sealed white cash envelopes filled with monetary wedding presents, gathering the full pile into my arms as hundreds of phone cameras recorded every movement live. Mia sprinted down the stage steps chasing after me, screaming the gift envelopes legally belonged to her as the bride's dowry. I adjusted the stack of cash against my chest, speaking loud enough for every table to catch each word clearly. Every rent payment, medical bill settlement, and wedding cost I covered built the life you've enjoyed these past 3 years. These wedding gifts are the first portion of funds I'm reclaiming to balance our outstanding ledger. Ethan stood frozen on the altar steps, powerless to stop me as I carried the entire stack of monetary gifts toward the manager's office for secure temporary storage pending full debt repayment. I paused halfway and glanced back at the pair trapped on stage, their elaborate celebration falling apart with zero way to salvage it without my financial backing. Every negative outcome landing on them stemmed purely from their own calculated deception and multi-year exploitation of my generosity. I never initiated any targeted sabotage, only acted to recover assets legally mine to claim. Hashtag chapter 2 immediate post-wedding chain of self-inflicted ruin. I exited the ballroom carrying the full stack of cash gifts, shocked chatter echoing behind me as I stepped outside the hotel onto the sidewalk. Minutes later, Mr. Bennett chased me down the pavement, threatening to file false theft police reports over the wedding monetary envelopes he claimed rightfully belonged to his daughter. I pulled out my phone and played the full live recording captured by dozens of guest cell phones during my stage speech, showing I'd clearly stated I'd hold the gifts temporarily and redistribute every dollar back to original donors if full repayment never arrived. I also pulled up advanced bank transfer receipts proving I'd settled the venue's complete catering and facility balance that same morning before the ceremony started, eliminating any liability the hotel could hold over the event collapse. Mr. Bennett stared at the screen stunned, realizing every legal loophole he'd tried to exploit had already been accounted for in my pre-saved evidence folders. I left him frozen processing his powerlessness and drove back to my private downtown condo, spending the rest of the evening sorting every digital receipt, voice clip, and video recording into labeled legal folders for my retained attorney to review first business day after the holiday weekend. 3 days following the wedding disaster, my lawyer sent formal certified demand letters addressed to Mia, her parents, and Ethan, outlining the full $317,600 repayment deadline set 7 calendar days from receipt, with civil breach of contract lawsuit filing automatic for failure to settle in full. Simultaneously, I forwarded unedited wedding stage footage to Ethan's corporate HR department alongside a short-written note detailing his public fraudulent collusion with Mia, which posed severe reputational risk to his company brand. I shared the full uncut video within our high school alumni group chat without adding captions or commentary. Within hours, the clip spread across every major social media platform, racking up hundreds of thousands of views and thousands of critical comments calling out their 3-year manipulative scheme against me. Mia bombarded my phone with over 30 missed calls and dozens of desperate pleading text messages, claiming she'd lost her full-time retail position after coworkers recognized her from the viral wedding footage and corporate management received dozens of customer complaints about her public scandal. Ethan reached out repeatedly through text and voicemail begging me to retract the footage sent to HR and withdraw the legal repayment demand, promising to split the debt with me via personal loan if I paused all official action. I ignored every incoming call and unread text message, adhering strictly to my attorney's legal guidance to avoid verbal settlement negotiations outside formal written documentation channels. 7 days after the demand letters were delivered, the 7-day repayment window expired without a single dollar transferred to my accounts. My legal representative immediately filed a formal civil lawsuit against Mia and her parents for multi-year accumulated financial obligations, while Ethan's corporate employer issued an official termination notice citing severe reputational damage stemming from the viral wedding scandal and proven financial fraud collusion with Mia. Mia attempted to sell the SUV I'd fully paid cash for to scrape partial repayment funds, yet every prospective buyer pulled out once they learned full legal vehicle ownership remained registered under my name from original purchase paperwork I retained in my records. Her parents were forced to list their suburban family home for emergency sale to gather liquid capital toward the massive outstanding debt judgment hanging over them in civil court. The viral wedding footage permanently destroyed Mia and Ethan's entire social circle reputation. Every mutual friend, distant relative, and former coworker severed all contact with them entirely, unwilling to associate with two people who'd spent 3 years systematically draining another man's finances while plotting a public betrayal on his own wedding day. None of their misfortunes required me to lift a finger to orchestrate. Every single collapse was a natural consequence of their own greed and premeditated deceit. Hashtag Chapter 3 court judgment and failed reconciliation attempt. 3 months after I filed the civil lawsuit, the judge issued a binding court ruling fully favoring my claim, ordering Mia and her parents to pay the complete $317,600 outstanding balance plus all associated legal fees and interest accrued over 3 years of unpaid debt. Mia managed to scrape together only $100,000 USD by liquidating every luxury item she owned and accepting a steep lowball offer on her parents' residential property, requesting an in-person neutral coffee shop meeting to beg for a reduced settlement amount. I agreed to attend only on the condition my attorney accompanied me to avoid any informal verbal agreements outside official legal paperwork. When we sat down across the cafe table, Mia broke down into hysterical tears recounting how Ethan abandoned her entirely after losing his corporate job, refusing to contribute any portion of the court-ordered debt and leaving her solely liable for every dollar owed to me. She even floated a half-hearted proposal to rekindle our romantic relationship once the full debt was repaid, claiming she'd realized her terrible mistake on the wedding stage and deeply regretted choosing Ethan over me. I responded calmly, laying the full printed court judgment flat across the table between us, reiterating my permanent decision to cut all personal contact indefinitely once the remaining balance transferred fully to my bank per judicial order. There existed zero possibility of repairing any trust after 3 years of calculated financial exploitation and a pre-planned wedding public betrayal. I told her plainly before excusing myself to leave the cafe, without lingering to listen to further remorseful excuses. Half a year later, I received casual updates from a mutual high school acquaintance who ran into Ethan at a local bar. He cycled through 3 separate entry-level sales roles post-termination. Every new employer ran background checks, uncovered the viral wedding scandal footage, and terminated his probationary employment within weeks of hiring. His entire social support network abandoned him completely, leaving him isolated with no friends or family willing to provide financial or emotional support amid his massive debt crisis linked to the civil court judgment. Mia's parents downsized into a tiny 1-bedroom downtown apartment after their suburban house sold at a steep loss to cover partial court repayments, eliminating all non-essential spending to chip away at the remaining outstanding balance they owed me. I never initiated harassment, public smear campaigns, or targeted sabotage against either Mia or Ethan at any point throughout the entire process. I only exercised my full legal rights to reclaim assets via thoroughly documented evidence and official court proceedings, while every devastating life outcome they endured stemmed purely from their own short-sighted, greedy choices. Following full settlement of the court-ordered repayment balance, I redistributed every single wedding cash gift I had temporarily held back to each original individual donor via bank transfer, sending a short, polite note explaining the wedding cancellation without retaining a single cent of the monetary presents for my personal use. The unused wedding ring set I donated to a domestic abuse women's shelter thrift store, fully releasing all emotional attachment tied to 3 years of one-sided sacrifice and betrayal. My personal finances recovered rapidly once all owed funds hit my accounts, and I reinvested the recovered capital into low-risk long-term real estate holdings to build stable personal wealth without ever again prioritizing supporting another person's reckless spending habits at the cost of my own security. I fully processed all lingering grief and frustration, over the multi-year manipulation, no longer harboring resentment toward Mia or Ethan for their self-destructive decisions. The entire wedding incident taught me an unshakable lifelong lesson. Unconditional financial support without firm boundaries will always be exploited by people who take your kindness for granted, and every manipulative, greedy individual will eventually face unavoidable consequences without any retaliation required on your part. Hashtag chapter 4 Healing Positive Support Circle, contrast against toxic family and ex. I don't carry lingering bitterness these days, largely because I've built a tight, unselfish support network that stands as a stark, warm contrast against Mia and her parents' endless money demands. My college best friend Leo has never once asked me for a single dollar over a decade of friendship. When I sank into depression in the weeks following the wedding disaster, he cleared his weekend schedule to drive out to my condo every evening to cook simple meals and sit with me without pushing me to talk about the heartbreak. My retired high school woodworking mentor, Mr. Hale, invited me to his rural countryside cabin every other weekend to build custom handmade furniture in his backyard workshop, a quiet hobby that let me decompress from years of constant financial stress and gaslighting from Mia's household. My corporate legal attorney provided consistent patient guidance through every step of the civil lawsuit, never rushing me into hasty settlement decisions and prioritizing my mental well-being over fast case closure. A small group of long-term freelance clients I work with for independent film editing projects reached out with heartfelt supportive messages once the viral wedding clip circulated online, offering extra project commissions to boost my income during the stressful legal period without any expectation I'd reciprocate with financial favors down the line. None of these people ever viewed me as an infinite wallet to drain dry, unlike Mia and her family, who treated every paycheck I earned as free disposable income to fund their vanity purchases and avoid personal responsibility for their own debt. I attend monthly licensed trauma counseling sessions to unpack the long-term emotional toll of 3 years of one-sided sacrifice and constant moral manipulation from Mia's household, steadily rebuilding my sense of self-worth outside the role of a permanent financial provider for ungrateful others. I've since met a new partner who splits all shared household expenses evenly from the start of our relationship, never once asking me to cover her personal credit balances or her relatives' unpaid bills, and we jointly plan small, affordable weekend trips without me footing every single cost unilaterally. This healthy, equal dynamic makes it crystal clear just how warped and one-sided my former engagement dynamic had always been. I've fully closed that painful chapter of my life, moving forward with stable finances, peaceful mental health, and genuine people around me who value me for who I am, not just the money I'm capable of giving away to satisfy their endless selfish demands.